שלום, שלום. Is it okay that we'll do all the session in English? Is it okay for everyone? Yeah? Okay. Then we'll do it in English. I think the sutra we'll read in Hebrew. You read it in advance. But the discussion we'll do in English. Okay? Yes. Okay. So let's start with a few minutes of meditation. So let's sit comfortably. Instead of doing puzzles and Sudoku, we practice a different language to keep us alert. Okay, so let's find a comfortable position. Take a few deep breaths just to ground ourselves. Let's check our minds if there's something that we think about, preoccupied with. Can we just acknowledge it, put it aside, bring the mind here to be open and curious and present, and putting other things aside. We'll get back to them in a few hours. And let's put all of our intention and attention on the breath. It can be the abdominals if we are accustomed to belly breathing, or the chest, or the opening of the nostrils, whatever we're accustomed to. We put the attention there and we stay there for a while. Let's try to analyze if we hold on to the breath all the time. If we are distracted, is it a full distraction, like we totally lost the breath and we are preoccupied with something else? Or it's a partial distraction, which means we hold the breath and at the same time there are other thoughts going on. This phase of partial distraction will go with us until quite high level of developing concentration. So let's train the introspection to see if we know how to distinguish what kind of distraction do we have, a coarse one or a subtle one. And now that the mind is more at ease, more focused, more relaxed, we can think of our motivation for this session. And we can remember that we are here in order to train and cultivate the mind, to be able to benefit others in a more substantial way, not to walk around being deluded, projecting on reality things that do not exist there, but to really be in close contact with reality, whatever it is, to be in close contact with our minds and states of minds, and from there to build a bridge to each and every sentient being. So we are here in order to train the mind to be able to cultivate bodhicitta, to free each and every sentient being from suffering and to bring everyone to enlightenment. And we can slowly come back. So it's been a month since our previous session. It seems quite long, huh? So today we have a beautiful sutra. Alex said that on the car you already started to discuss and you found many directions it can go. It's a very wide one and it touches very, it's like profound key points. I think each sutra emphasizes different aspects on the path or different ideas to teach us. And this one touches one of the most profound ideas. It's not an easy one, especially in our days. I don't know if have you read it? Did you look?
Read it, yes.
Yeah, so there is a blockage, immediate blockage, right? It's long, yeah.
Yeah, I read most of it.
Yeah, and there is a blockage quite in the beginning, no? That we read that he was a
bandit,
a wrathful murderer. Yeah, but we can try to read and maybe go through that and see things beyond that, because I think this sutra offers us many interesting ideas. So we will read together in Hebrew, but we'll do the discussions in English. And I think the opening paragraph, when he describes all the people he killed and the terror that he was establishing on people, it gives a big reference to our days. So maybe after this paragraph, we'll stop for a second and just breathe and see what comes and accept and let it go, because I don't think we can just read it normally. Like when I read it, it strikes me each time. So Thich Nhat Hanh wrote a book, a very chubby book, called The Old Path, White Clouds, about all the life story of the Buddha. And he describes everything. And at one point, he describes when the Buddha died at the age of 80 or 84. I don't remember. And then he did something I never saw in any other book. He stops writing the story and he addresses the reader directly after describing how Buddha dies or pass away for paranirvana. And he says, now you, the reader, take a few minutes, breathe, be peaceful, see what comes up in your mind when you read about the Buddha passing away. So I take this idea to our sutra today, that we'll read the first verse, which is a bit tough, and then we can take 2 minutes, no more, just to give it the time that we need. So I'll share the screen. And then, so Yotam, I don't see you anymore. So if you want to say something, just say, because I don't see you. And I have, you see, there are little numbers with remarks. So I have the remarks here. So if something is important, I will address it. So it's the sutra about Angulimala. Angulimala, it's a word in Pali, which means having a necklace of fingers. So you already know very useful words in Pali. It's a necklace of fingers. And this is because it's a murderer that used to take a finger of each one he killed and put it on himself. Okay? Okay, so I start. הדרשה אודות אנגולימלה, השודד בעל מחרוזת האצבעות. תרגום אסף פדרמן. כך שמעתי. פעם אחת שהה המבורך ליד סווסטי בחורשת ג'טה, בגן של אנטפדינקה. המבורך זה הבודה, כן? באותה העת היה רוצח, ושמו אנגולימלה, בממלכתו של פסנדי קוסלה. רוצח אכזר, שידיו מגואלות בדם, שרצח וטבח אנשים רבים, חסר רחמים כלפי כל מה שיש בו חיים. בגללו כפרים נמחו מעל פני האדמה, ערים התרוקנו, מדינות שלמות הפכו לאיי חרבות. אותו רוצח, לאחר שהרג וביטר את קורבנותיו, היה עודה מחרוזת מאצבעותיהם. ניקח רגע, או שאנחנו יכולים להמשיך. מצבנו. אפשר להמשיך? אז מחוזת מאצבעותיהם זה רק אומר שהשם שלו אנגולימלה זה מחוזת של אצבע. יום אחד, מוקדם בבוקר, המבורך לבש את הגלימה שלו. לקח את הגלימה השנייה ואת קערת הנדבות ונכנס לסווסטי כדי לאסוף מזון. נכון, כך הם היו מתקיימים. הולכים עם הקערה והבתים, הקהילה המקומית הייתה תורמת מזון וכך הם היו מתקיימים. בשעות אחר הצהריים, לאחר שחזר למגוריו, אחרי שסיים את קבלת הנדבות בסווסטי, סידר המבורך את מקום המנוחה שלו. לקח שוב את הגלימה ואת הקערה ופנה בדרך הראשית לכיוון הרוצח אנגולימלה. בעודם נמלטים ראו רועי השברים, רועי בקר ואיכרים, את המבורך צועד לכיוונו של הרוצח אנגולימלה וקראו לעברו, סמן, אל תיכנס לדרך הזו. על הדרך הזאת צועד הרוצח אנגולימלה, רוצח אכזר שידיו מגואלות בדם, שרצח וטבח אנשים רבים, חסר רחמים כלפי כל מה שיש בו חיים. בגללו כפרים נמחו מעל פני האדמה, ערים התרוקנו, מדינות שלמות הפכו לאיי חורבות. אותו רוצח, לאחר שהרג וביטר את קורבנותיו, עודה מחוזת מאצבעותיהם. סמן, לדרך הזו יצאו 10 אנשים, 20, 30, ואפילו קבוצות של 40 אנשים, וגם הם נפלו לידיו של אנגולימלה. אז המילה סמן, אסף כותב בהערות בסוף שזה נווד, זה שם כללי לנוודים רוחניים בהודו. זה כל הנזירים שככה מתקיימים מקיבוץ נדבות. בסדר? אז בודה צועד לקראתו של הרוצח למרות שהוא מקבל אזהרה מאוד מפורשת. אמרו זאת, אבל המבורך המשיך בדרכו בשתיקה. בפעם השנייה ראו רועי שברים, רועי בקר ויקרים את המבורך, אך גם בפעם השנייה הוא המשיך בדרכו בשתיקה. בפעם השלישית ראו רועי שברים, רועי בקר ויקרים את המבורך, אך גם בפעם השלישית הוא המשיך בדרכו בשתיקה. אני חושבת שהוא קיבל אזהרות חוזרות ונשנות, אבל הוא פשוט לא תרגם את אותו קטע שוב ושוב ושוב. אבל כולם מזהירים אותו, לא ללכת בדרך הזאת. ואכן, הרוצח אנגולימלה ראה את המבורך הולך ומתקרב וחשב, זה בהחלט מפתיע, זה בהחלט מוזר. לדרך הזאת יצאו 10 אנשים, 20, 30, ואפילו קבוצות של 40 אנשים, וגם הם נפלו לידיו. אבל הסמן הזה מתקרב לבד, לא חמוש ובלי ליווי. למה שלא יראו גם אותו? לקח הרוצח אנגולימלה את חרבו ומגינו, כיתף את הקשת והשפת החיצים ופנה אחרי המבורך. או אז הפעיל המבורך את כוחו העל-טבעי, ולמרות שקצב הליכתו לא השתנה, הרוצח אנגולימלה לא הצליח להדביק אותו כלל. חשב הרוצח אנגולימלה, זה בהחלט מפתיע, זה בהחלט מוזר. בעבר הייתי מדביק פיל בורח, הייתי יכול להשיג כרכרה דוהרת, או אפילו לתפוס צבי במנוסתו. אבל עכשיו אני יכול להשיג את הסמן הזה שמתקדם בצעד רגיל. נעמד אנגולימלה וקרא, עצור סמן, עצור. אני כבר עצרתי אנגולימלה.
זה המשפט הכי חזק.
לגמרי. אני כבר עצרתי אנגולימלה, עכשיו עצור אותה. This sentence, I have already stopped, now you need to stop. When Angulimala was trying to catch him. יופי. נמשיך עוד טיפה. אחר כך ננתח. חשב אנגולימלה. הסמן הזה מבין הסקיה, נכון? כי קוראים לו בודה שקיה מוני. שקיה הוא מכת השקיה. זה פשוט האזור שהוא גר בו. נכון? הסמן הזה מבני השקיה כנראה יודע דבר מה. כשהוא צועד, הוא אומר, אני כבר עצרתי אנגולימלה, עכשיו עצור אתה. למה שלא ישאל אותו שאלה? אז הוא אומר לו, סמן, בעודך צועד, אתה אומר, אני עצרתי. אבל כשאני עוצר, אתה אומר שלא עצרת. אני שואל אותך, גם זאת סמן, מדוע אתה עצרת ואני לא? Do you understand the situation? Like, Buddha is walking all the time, and he has some kind of superpower, so you cannot even, you can never reach him. So he's walking, and the murderer calls him stop, and he's keep on walking, and he said, but I've stopped already. And the murderer is stopping, and he said, but you didn't stop. So he's getting very confused. So why do you say you stop while you're still walking? And you tell me that I didn't stop while I'm standing in the right place, right? ואז התשובה. אני עצרתי לעולמים אנגולימל. אני הנחתי את המקל. אבל אתה חסר ריסון כלפי יצורים חיים, לכן אני עצרתי ואתה. ההערה של אני הנחתי את המקל זה הערה יפה, זה כפל משמעות. אפשרות אחת זה המקל, Buddha says I have stopped and I put down my stick. And in the little remarks they say putting down the stick it has double meaning. One is a stick that you beat others. And then when you put down the stick, it means you're not a threat to anyone, you're not harming anyone. And the other one is like a walking stick, that if you put it, it's like a metaphor for rest, for ease. So when the Buddha says, I had put my stick down, it means he's never harming anyone, but also his mind is at peace, right? Double meaning. ואז הוא מסביר, אבל אתה חסר ריסון כלפי יצורים חיים. לכן אני עצרתי, ואתה לא. סוף סוף הגיע הוא אליי, סמן קדוש ומכובד, אל היער הגדול. בשומעי את זאת הדרמה, בשורות השיר שלך, אכן אנטוש כל רוע מעשה לעד. So Buddha was very skilled in knowing how to influence people. So he did some magic to manifest that he has some maybe different position from normal sentient beings, right? He's not always using his magic powers, but here, because the murderer is in such a deluded state of mind, that he needed to find a way to reach him in a different way, not just to tell him to stop. So he manifested superpowers, and Angulimala was so impressed, and then he said something that is a bit puzzling and unclear, like he was preparing his mind to have a different situation, a different interaction. And it had an effect because Angulimala said, okay, there's something special here, right? So it's enough for him to hear, I have put my stick, you don't have any restraint for sentient beings. It's enough for him to say, okay, I will abandon evil forever. Very powerful situation, right? Like Buddha had a strong effect on him. הרוצח כך אמר, ואת חרבו ומגינו השליך לפי התהום, הטיל עצמו לרגלי הנעלה, הבודה, ובו ברגע ובמקום ביקש להצטרף לחסידיו. הבודה, הקדוש בעל החמלה, מורה לאלים ולעולם כולו, פנה אליו ואמר בוא ביקו. ביקו, נכון, וכאן אסף אומר, זה כינוי למי שהצטרף לקהילת הפורשים של הבודה. When he says Bhikkhu, it's like all the followers of the Buddha. When he says Bhikkhu, come. וכך הוא נעשה, אז לביקו. פנה המבורך לחזור לסווסטי, כשאנגולימלה צועד בעקבותיו. סוואטי. צעד אחר צעד. הגיע לבסוף אל סוואטי, ושם השתקע בחורשת ג'טה, בפארק של אנטפינדיקה. לא טובה בשמות האלה. יום אחד, התאסף המון אדם מול שער הארמון של המלך פסנדי קוסלה, וקרא בקול גדול. הוד מלכותו, ישנו רוצח אחד בממלכה שלו, ושמו אנגולימל, רוצח אכזר שידיו מגואלות בדם, שרצח וטבח אנשים רבים, חסר רחמים כלפי כל מה שיש בו חיים. בגללו כפרים נמחו מעל פני האדמה, ערים התרוקנו, מדינות שלמות הפכו לאיי חורבות. אותו רוצח, לאחר שהרג וביטר את קורבנותיו, עודה מחרוזת מאצבעותיהם, על המלך לאסור אותו. הוא מאיים, הוא מפחיד. They're afraid of him, he's in their town, they call the king to set some rules and order. אז בצהרי היום, המלך פסנדי קוסלה פנה אל עבר סוואטי, אל הגן. רכוב במרכבתו, ומלווה ב500 פרשים, הוא נערך למלחמה, כן? 500 פרשים. הוא נסע עד כמה שאפשרה הדרך את מעבר המרכבה, ואז ירד ממנה ופנה ברגל לכיוון המבורך. כשנפגש עמו, ברך אותו לשלום והתיישב בצד אחד. משהתייצב בצד אחד, שאל אותו המבורך, עוד מלכותו, האם סניה בן בשר המלך מגדה מסתכסך איתך? האם וסליקה או ליצ'אווה או מלכים עוינים אחרים הסתכסכו איתך? Buddha is checking why the king is coming to see him. Does he have a fight with other kingdoms? Does he have any trouble in his daily life? אדוני, סניה בן בשר המלך מגדה לא הסתכסך איתי, וכך גם וסליקה, ליצ'אווה ומלכים עוינים אחרים. אבל ישנו רוצח אחד בממלכה שלי, ושמו אנגולימאלה, רוצח אכזר שידיו מגואלות בדם, שרצח וטבח אנשים רבים, חסר רחמים כלפי כל מה שיש בו חיים. בגללו כפרים נמחו מעל פני האדמה, ערים התרוקנו, מדינות שלמות הפכו לאיי חורבות. אותו רוצח, לאחר שהרג וביטר את קורבנותיו, עודם מחרוזת מאצבעותיהם, לעולם לא אצליח לאסור אותו. נניח עוד מלכותו שהיית רואה שאנגולימאלה גילח את זקנו וראשו, לבש גלימה כתומה, נעשה נזיר, נכון? ועזב את הבית לטובת חיים חסרי בית. היית רואה שהוא נמנע מהרג, מלקחת מה שאינו ניתן לו, נמנע מלשקר, אלה הנדרים של המוסר. אוכל ארוחה אחת ביום, מתנזר, מקפיד על שמירת כללי התנהגות ובעל מזג טוב. כיצד היית נוהג כלפיו? Not an easy question, right? Because he was killing so many people and he was creating so much damage and so much fear that his citizens comes to the king and says, please arrest him. And he's responsible of their peace of mind. And he did horrible things. But now he has transformed. Now what do you do? It's an excellent question. What would you do? If somebody did something so horrible, but then someone as valid as the Buddha says he has transformed, what would you do? If you were the king, what would you have done? Is it easy decision? Would you let the past determine your decision or the present? מה? אפשר לנו בעברית, אני אתרגם. She'll answer in Hebrew, I'll translate.
אני מנהלת את הסוג של משא ומתן, איזה תוצאה בעונש, מגיע לו לקבל, מה הוא בוחר, ואני אומרת לקבל בסוף את ההחלטה. אני צריכה להיות תוצאה. צריך להיות.
עונש.
אני לא אוהבת לקרוא איזה עונש, תוצאה.
השלכה למעשים שלו. Yael says even if he has transformed, there must be some consequence to what he did. And you cannot just ignore the past.
There is consequence because there's the law of karma. Even if we do nothing, the actions that we performed will have consequences.
Yeah.
We can look
גם אם המלך לא מחליט בעונש בתוצאה, הוא יקבל בתוצאה מעשים שלו.
I'll repeat for Yotam. Il says that even if the king doesn't do anything, there will be consequences because this is the law of karma, and every action we do has some consequences, and there is a discussion here if other people needs to see it. Let's continue because the sutra relates to it as well. Yeah.
I would say the sutra is having a very playful attitude toward the roles that we show in our life. And you mentioned different times. You have a beautiful poem for me in my words, saying that they're at the same time the pirate, the tricks, the leader, and the little girl, and everyone else. So if thinking about it like this, it makes things clear. And one other thing, Angulimala. Mala is the
necklace.
What's it?
Necklace.
Necklace with the team or that's it. The states that when you pray in home, you change and there is one another state. So Mala can be also sacred and like this with the finger.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I have a feeling. I don't know if it's true or not, but the king's name, Kusala and Akusala is
מיטיב ולא מיטיב.
So everybody has a role, and just want to show that the roles that you're participating in can be changed.
Can change. Beautiful
Yeah.
try. Beautiful interpretation.
Yeah.
So I'll repeat for you, Tam.
But I was speaking in English.
Yeah, but the speaker is not strong enough. The speaker is not strong enough. So I can do it in Hebrew. גילת אומרת שהסוטרה בנויה בצורה שיש לנו תפקידים, כל אחד מחזיק פה איזשהו תפקיד, ויש שיר של דיך נתן, רע לי בשמותיי האמיתיים, שמראה שכולנו יכולים להיות הכל. יש לו שיר כזה שהוא לוקח סיטואציה, נניח של רפיוג'יז בסירה, ואז מישהו אונס את הילדה הקטנה, והוא אומר אני יכול להיות הילדה, אני יכול להיות גם האנס. מה שאומר שאם גדלים בסיטואציות שונות בהינתן נסיבות מסוימות, אנחנו יכולים להתפתח לכל מיני כיוונים. זה לא שיש מישהו שהוא אינהרנטלי מנוול ומישהו שהוא אינהרנטלי טוב, יש השפעה של הנסיבות, וגם כאן מה שהסוטרה מראה זה איזושהי יכולת טרנספורמציה. והשם קוסלה בפאלי זה מיטיב או וירצ'וס, מיטיב ולא מיטיב, אז יכול להיות שיש כאן גם דיון כזה. Okay, so let's keep on reading because we already have the question of karma. We have the question of what the other people around can see, that we cannot ignore the past, and how do we respond to such a dramatic transformation. So only now we are still in the introduction, so many questions.
You need a magic to do a change.
You need a magic to do a change?
Yeah.
The magic was just to make him be attracted, but to the transformation of the mind will never be by magic. We never know. We know. We know. Because there are many. You want to say? There is a very famous quote that says, Buddha cannot wash away our negativities. He cannot bring his realizations into us. He cannot transform our own mind. If Buddha would be able to transform our own mind, we will all be enlightened already because he's enlightened for so long. So if he had the capacity to transform my mind, to clear away my negativities, like, you know, in the Hindu, you go for the Ganges, you dip, you purify your negativities. Buddha cannot do that. The only thing that Buddha can do is teach the path. The only person that can transform my mind is me. So he used magic. He used magic to make Angulimala curious, so he can have interaction and effect on him. But if Angulimala became a monk and suddenly he needs to restrain from killing, it's his work. You're inspired by the Buddha, you're influenced by him, but he needs to take the decision, I will not kill him. Nobody can, like Buddha cannot transplant this insight into him.
I think that he did not transform him completely at that moment because it seems hardly possible, but he was able to restrain him at the moment. And whether it's magical or not magical, it's not so important yet. But the Buddha is something which is completely necessary for keeping, for example, Angulimala restrained.
Yeah.
If Buddha just disappears, then
We don't know.
Starts
Yeah.
giving once again.
Yeah.
So
just for your time, אנגולימלה עכשיו הוא לא fully transformed, הוא רק קיבל איזושהי החלטה, והוא עכשיו מתחיל איזשהו תהליך ריסוק, ואנחנו באמת לא יודעים אם בודה היה נעלם בשלב הזה, אם אנגולימלה היה חוזר להרגליו הרעים או לא, הוא אולי עוד לא מאוד מפותח, ועוד לא התקדם מאוד בדרך.
Since I read this sutta, I'm thinking about the peace, you know them? Peace. The combat, yeah. And what they did is there are people like terrorists and fighters from our sides, from both sides. They all turned, they all did this transformation with the killing and the hatred. And they started working for peace.
Yeah.
It's the same.
The same.
Wait.
Yeah.
רגע,
לחצה.
If such a heinous murderer can also be transformed so amazingly, so I can as well.
I can as well. Yeah. So, give me a second. נילי אומרת, זה כמו לוחמים לשלום, שזה היו גם מחבלי חמאס או טרור, טרוריסטים, וגם לוחמים שלנו, שגם עשו בדיוק את אותו שיפט כמו אנגולימאלה, ופועלים לשלום, לוחמים לשלום עכשיו. ואילאיל אומרת שזה...
מעורר השראה.
כן, שזה דוגמה שהיא מעוררת השראה על מעשה כל כך חמור. יכול להיות שינוי, אז אולי גם על המעשים היומיומיים שלי. אני יכולה להשתנות. And this I think also goes with, we'll talk a bit about the power of purification. But when you study karma, the complementary side is always the purification practices. Key point in this manner, we'll go into depth. A key point is there is no action that cannot be purified. No action that cannot be purified. It can be the most horrible thing you can think of. It can be purified. So, and this sutra really demonstrates that even if you went very deluded, very far, and you terrorized so many people, it can be purified. And we can take it as a face value, but literally, but we can
You want it to be purified.
If you do the action yourself, nobody can purify for you. And also we can take it as an example for us. If he purified being a murderer, maybe I can purify just being nasty yesterday to my sister.
I want to say two things. One is that in this sutra we see a situation where the king is symbolizing the law and the rules, and there are people that are not accepting the rules, because even if the king accepted Angulimala, the people were not accepting him, and finally they're trying to, they were eating.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is one.
Yeah.
And when you say purified, I'm asking myself, what is purified? Because purified for himself, he would find for his karma, because people were not accepting his actions. And so purifying is not so.
Okay, it's a very good point. We'll address it just when we read along. So אלונה מעלה את הסוגיה של הנושא הזה של טיהור. היא אומרת המלך מייצג את החוק, אבל האנשים סביבו לא מקבלים. תכף נקרא הלאה ונראה שאנשים לא קיבלו את הטרנספורמציה והם עדיין כועסים. וגם הנושא הזה של הטיהור לא כל כך ברור מה אתה מטהר, כי עובדה שאנשים אחרים לא חוו את השינוי והם כן מנסים לפגוע בו בהמשך.
מה אתה מטהר? מה זה טיהור בכלל?
מה זה טיהור? מה זה טיהור?
מתי אתה יודע שזה מתואר?
ומתי אתה יודע שזה מתואר? What is purification and when do you have this insight that I have purified? We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. It's a very interesting sutra. Very, very interesting one. Okay, so let's read, keep on reading. Ken.
You know, we were talking about magic. I don't think that it's magic. Like, it sounds magic because it's about Buddha. But it's like what he has done is like what you are doing with us. It's like he was like an ignorant regarding his acts and how he was behaving, and the Buddha showed him another way of looking at life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's what we are doing here, and what we sometimes show to our children. So it's like it's not magic for me. It's like he's showing us that even though the idea of most of the people is something different, you can go with your truth.
Okay.
So this is what
you want to. סוזי אומרת שדיברנו על זה שהבודה היה צריך קסם כדי למשוך את אנגולימאלה, והיא אומרת זה לא קסם, זה כל מה שאנחנו עושים פה במפגשים, אנחנו מנסים לקבל פרספקטיבה אחרת ותפיסות עולם אחרות לדברים שאולי אנחנו בגלל בורות לא ערים אליהם או לא מודעים אליהם, כמו שאנגולימאלה פעל מתוך בורות, ובעצם הבודה ניסה להראות לו זווית אחרת, וזה מה שאנחנו עושים גם עם עצמנו, גם לילדינו. אוקיי, I continue. So we stopped at the question that Buddha is asking the king, if you would have known that this murderer is now a monk, committed to the ethical vows of not killing, not stealing, not lying, how would you behave? We continue from here. היינו מברכים אותו לשלום, היינו קמים לכבודו, מזמינים אותו לשבת, נותנים לו גלימות, קערת נדבות, מקום מגורים, רפואות. זה האופן שבו הקהילה החילונית תומכת בקהילה הדתית. היינו מספקים לו הגנה ושמירה על החוק, אבל איך ייתכן שאדם חסר מוסר, אדם רע מעללים, יהיה בעל ריסון עצמי כזה? באותה שעה, אנגולימאלה המכובד ישב ליד המבורך. המכובד, אני חושבת שבטקסט המקורי הוסיפו את המילה venerable, שזה כבר איזושהי באמת הדרת כבוד לכל מי שמתנזר. שלח המבורך את ידו הימנית ואמר למלך קוסלה, זה עוד מלכותו, אנגולימאלה. כפה פסנדי קוסלה ושערותיו סמרו מפח. תראו כמה אימה הבן אדם הזה מטיל. ראה המבורך שהמלך מבוהל ושכל שערותיו סומרות, ואמר לו, אל פחד עוד מלכותו, אל פחד. אין לך סיבה לפחד עכשיו. שמע זאת המלך המבוהל ונרגע. תראו כמה גמיש הוא. מספיק שהבודה אומר תירגע, הוא נרגע. אז פנה המלך פסנדי קוסלה אל אנגולימאלה ושאל, אדוני, האם אתה אנגולימאלה? כן, עוד מלכותו. אם כך, מנין אתה? מה שם אביך? מה שם ממך? שם אבי גטו? שם אמי מנתני? ברוך תהיה מכובדי. הוא עשה בחירה. ברוך תהיה מכובדי בנם של גטו ומנתני. אני אספק לך גלימות, קערת נדבות, מגורים ורפואות. באותה עת אנגולימאלה המכובד היה שוכן יח, אוכל מזון נדבות, לבוש בלויים, בעל 3 גלימות, זה הסטוק שלהם. אמר אנגולימאלה המכובד למלך, עוד מלכותו די לי ב3 גלימות. אתה אומר אני אתן לך גלימות, הוא אומר לא צריך, כבר יש לי 3. הבודה אומר צריך רק 3, יש לו כבר 3. פנה המלך פסנדי קוסלה אל המבורך, התיישב בצד אחד, ואחרי שהתיישב בצד אחד ואמר לו, זה נפלא אדוני שאתה שולט בפראי, מרגיע את שאינו רגוע, מביא לכדי סיום מוחלט את מה שלא הסתיים. המבורך הצליח לשלוט בלי חרב ומקל, היכן שנכשלנו אנחנו לשלוט עם חרב ומקל. ובכן אדוני, עכשיו עלינו ללכת, המלאכה רבה ואנחנו עסוקים.
גם פסקה טובה.
וגם פסקה טובה? כן,
המלך. מי שמספר את הסיפור הוא מאוד שונון.
מלאכה רבה זה כאילו בספרה.
הוא פשוט הפוקוס עובר לדברים אחרים. אני עובר לדברים אחרים. זה המלך אמר.
לא, המלך אמר.
Do you want, let's keep on reading just to have the whole perspective and then we can open discussions on purification and stuff, but let's read it a bit more, right? So we have the whole picture, the whole frame. לבש אנגולימאלה המכובד את הגלימה, לקח את קערת הנדבות ונכנס לסבתי כדי לאסוף מזון. בעודו מתהלך ללא הפרעה בסבתי ואוסף מזון, ראה אנגולימאלה המכובד אישה אחת מתענה בצירי לידה, צירי לידה קשים. מי שראה זאת חשב, כמה טמאים הם בני אדם, כמה טמאים הם בני אדם. כשעוברים לתרגום באנגלית, לא כתוב impure או unpure, כתוב tormented. כתוב שם שיש לידת עכוז, שהיא מאוד מאוד מתענה, וליבו יוצא אליה על הסבל. אני חושבת שפה התרגום, נכון, בגלל זה תמיד טוב להשוות תרגומים, כי יש המון שונות בין תרגומים שונים. בגלל זה גם צירפתי לכם את האנגלית. אז פה הוא אומר כמה טמאים, זה לקח אותי לזה שבבודהיזם מתייחסים לזה שהרבה מאוד מהחומרים של הגוף הם לא טהורים.
בדיוק, לא טהורים, בגלל זה הגוף סובל, זאת אומרת, סובלים כאבים.
נכון, ובתרגום באנגלית של תניסארו ביקו, in your translation and in Hebrew there are differences. When he saw this woman trying to give birth, and he said how tormented living beings are. In Hebrew, he translated it to how impure living beings are, as if very different meaning. but maybe the body is impure and that's a source of suffering. And then in English, Tanisao Bhikkhu took a further step and he said just immediately, how tormented. So we have the two meanings of this and that. אחרי ארוחת הצהריים, לאחר שהתהלך בסבתי כדי לאסוף מזון, חזר אנגולימאלה המכובד ופנה אל המבורך. התיישב אנגולימאלה בצד אחד ואמר, היום אדוני לבשתי את הגלימה, נורא ספציפי. לקחתי את קערת הנדבות, נכנסתי לסבתי כדי לאסוף מזון. בעודי מתהלך ללא הפרעה בסבתי ואוסף מזון, ראיתי אישה אחת מתענה בצירי לידה קשים. משראיתי זאת חשבתי, כמה טמאים הם בני אדם, כמה טמאים. שמתי לכם למטה, how tormented. אם כך אנגולימאלה, לך לסבתי ופנה לאישה הזו ואמור לה. אחות, מאז שנולדתי אינני זוכר שנטלתי בכוונה חיים מאף יצור חי. מי ייתן שאמת זו תעניק כל טוב לך ולילוד. אדוני, זה יהיה ללא ספק שקר מכוון, שהרי בלי ספק נטלתי בכוונה את חייהם של יצורים חיים. אם כך אנגולימאלה, לך לסבתי ופנה לאישה הזו ואמור לה. אחות, מאז שנולדתי לידה רוחנית, איני זוכר שנטלתי בכוונה חיים מאף יצור חי. מי ייתן שאמת זו תעניק כל טוב לך ולילוד. עכשיו על זה, I got stuck on this one as well, and I thought few things. First, we have here the action of dedication. He takes his merit, huge merit of transformation. He sees a tormented woman, and he wants to give her, or at least Buddha guides him. He was disturbed by her suffering. He came to the Buddha, saying, "I saw this woman suffer," and he felt unease. He felt a suffering. We can already start to see his transformation, because before he was torturing and cutting bodies and doing horrible stuff. And suddenly he sees a woman in pain of labor and he's being touched, influenced. We already see the transformation of his mind. And he comes to the Buddha and he says, how tormented people are. And Buddha says, go and offer her your merit. Tell her, I never took a life. So much merit. Offer her this merit. Because it's, why is it merit? Because he offers her his good intentions. This is merit. When I offer merit, when I sit at the end of a practice and saying, may all my effort, good intentions, qualities serve as a cause for happiness of others, mentally I stretch my mind that I will give my causes of happiness to others. So when you offer your merit to others, you say, I have good intention never to harm others. You can take it literally and the woman can be more relaxed that she gives birth and her son is not in danger because he never takes a life. But it's more than that, that he's giving all of his effort and intent, good intentions, transformation, merit for her as a cause of happiness. Right? It's dedication. So we already see that he's transformed. Buddha is guiding him to do dedication. Because you see someone suffers, you just offer all of your causes of happiness to her. And then there's this very interesting part, ever since you were born, you never took a life. And he said, no, it's a life. So ever since you were spiritually born, right? It says like this in the English, spiritually born.
Birth.
Sorry?
Noble birth.
Noble birth. Okay. Since your noble birth, you never took life. Now, this is interesting because we have a glimpse of emptiness here. Because what the Buddha says, I wrote it, like, who is the killer? The me in the past is the killer. Is it the same me as today? Or maybe there is a noble birth and I'm transformed and now it's a different me. If we hold on to every action we did, if we hold on to every perception or thoughts that we had in the past, then there is the misconception of permanence. We grasp into permanence. What was in the past will stay in the future. And we all fall in this trap, right? We grasp, they say we grasp into ordinary appearances. I was a fearless murderer in the past, so this is me. But no, there is a new birth, a noble birth. And from that moment, you never took a life. So as if your previous life don't have to be a burden on your new self. This is really like, there are consequences. It will not go away by itself, but you don't have to define yourself as what happened in the past. You can define yourself ever since your transformation. And when you deal with Buddha nature, when you deal with the emptiness of the mind, this is the thing. They tell us, don't grasp into ordinary appearances. Identify with your potential to transform. Identify with the final result. If you're a tantric practitioner, identify with the final result. You don't have to identify with this little pity mind that you have today, that this is insulting and this is the ego is jumping and this I made mistake. I don't have to identify. It's a part of what is going on with me now. But my future enlightenment is a valid part as well. And my capacity to transform is a valid part as well. So he's basically saying to us, don't... אני יכולה,
אני מבינה, כשיש מילים שאני לא מבינה, אז יש לי פה...
Translator?
לוחשת אצל הכלבים.
I'll do it in Hebrew once. זה גישה לנושא הזה של emptiness, שמה שהייתי בעבר לא חייב להיות עול על התפיסה וההגדרה העצמית שלי בהווה. כי זה ממש אקט שאני עושה לעצמי באופן אקטיבי, אני כובלת את עצמי לתפיסות של מה עשיתי פעם, וזאת אני. למשל. אז נכון שזה קרה בגלגול שאני עוד זוכרת, לא, אבל זה נכון. It's like a previous lifetime. I was murderer then, but now it's a noble birth. I was reborn. And there is something so beautiful in this idea that I don't have to grasp into the past. I'm now dealing with exactly that. I'm giving birth now to Yael that doesn't like cakes and cookies. And I'm really working on it because I went to some naturopath and I asked him, like, I want to start to eat healthy. And my biggest challenge is cakes and cookies. And he was talking a lot, explaining, saying, and then he did like a role play with me. And he said, if somebody comes to you and offers you cake or cookies, he did like this with his hand, you just tell him, no, I don't like these things. And when he said that, I felt inside such resistance. I said, this sentence will never go out of my mouth. I cannot do like this and say, no, I don't eat. And then I could look at myself from the side and I said, how come I identify myself with such a stupid little trait that is so strong in my mind that I cannot even perceive myself saying a sentence like I don't like cakes. It is such a tiny thing and half of my self-identification sits on it. I have transformed so many other things that were so much bigger than that. I needed this inside dialogue to see that I'm putting self-identification on something very silly. I said, that's it. I'm now giving birth to a new Yael that says, I don't like cakes and cookies. I don't eat cakes and cookies. And I don't have to bound myself to my previous habits. And I don't have to have this burden on me that I cannot transform. I can transform. I saw it in so many things that I can transform. So I can transform this as well. And here I really like this. Since my noble birth, you identify with your potential to transform. You identify with your transformation. You put your all identification on the new perspective of life. Very powerful tool. And then you have a lot of merit to give. And then Angulimala was convinced and he went like this to the woman to offer his merit. Beautiful, no?
כן, ממש.
Really nice. Okay. So we continue.
I think that it's a warning for us when we characterize people. הוא עקשן, הוא עצלן, הוא קמצן, היא בלתי מוגבלת, כן?
כל העזתים חמאסים, כל העזתים מחבלים.
אז כאילו, they were born like this, and they will die like that. Instead of saying, he acts he has acts like a terrorist, for example, yeah, or he in that situation he didn't do something like that. So it's like for me a warning.
Yes.
Again.
Yes, 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 yes.
Easy to say, but when I think about the Sarah Netanyahu, I can't give up.
I cannot see anything else.
I heard it's her, and I don't want.
Yeah.
It's like
But
some people like are.
But this is also very interesting to see where I go along with this understanding and when I grasp into my perception at the moment, because. So just to repeat for Yota, סוזי אומרת, זה כמו איזשהו סוג של הזהרה בשבילנו, לא רק להסתכל על עצמנו ככה, אלא גם להסתכל על אחרים. כי אני מתייגת, זה עצלן וזה שקרן וזה קמצן וזאת בלתי נסבלת, ובעצם גם הם, אני לא צריכה להיאחז בקטנוניות שלהם כרגע, במעשים או בזה, כי גם להם יש יכולת להשתנות, וגם להם יש טבע הבודה, וגם להם התודעה הריקה, וגם הם, אם הם ירצו, הם יוכלו לעשות טרנספורמציה. אז מה שאני זוכרת על עצמי, אני יכולה גם שיהיה לי מבט מיטיב על אחרים, ולזכור את זה מאוד גם על אחרים, זה very good reminder. Yeah. Okay. We continue reading. Excuse
me, when a teacher says about a child.
When a teacher says
about a child.
Yeah.
הילד הזה הוא...
מורה בבית ספר.
הוא לא אינטליגנט, כן? ואז תקשיבי, ההשפעה של זה
נכון, נכון, נכון.
כמה מאיתנו זוכרים, המורה הזאת
אמר לי
שאני כזאת, אבא שלי הייתה אומרת לי, את מאוד אלימה עם אח שלה, כי היינו מרביצים אחד לשני, עד אלימה, וזה
וזה נכנס, נכון.
לעכשיו, ועדיין אני זוכרת את זה.
נכון, נכון. Susie really emphasizes the fact that some people say things like teachers says that you're not intelligent, you don't have potential, or grandmother said to you something, and you really remember that. We really identify with these things, and it has a very strong effect on people. Usually it can be for the good, but we remember the painful ones that we don't agree with, and we try to transform. If we can remember at each and every moment my emptiness and others' emptiness. I am not defined by anything I did, and others are not defined. It doesn't mean that there are no consequences. It doesn't mean that there will be no results or effects to what is going on. But do I have to identify someone so rigidly, says he's like that, I'm like that? Can open. And we have here the most extreme example of somebody who was transformed really dramatically. I think they give a very dramatic example for really inspiration. If he did a transformation in killing people, I can quit sugar. Right? Hopefully.
You can very easily change one rescue to another, and then follow to another rescue about other. And when you remember emptiness, you tell him how to do that.
Yeah. חשוב לזכור את נושא הריקות, emptiness, כי אחרת אנחנו מחליפים היאחזות אחת בהיאחזות אחרת. attachment למשהו אחד, מתחלף ב-attachment למשהו אחר, אז לא עשינו כלום. אבל אם זוכרים emptiness, אז משחררים ולא בהכרח מחליפים.
רציתי להגיד שאחד הדברים שמקלים עליי, לא לעשות הכללות ולא כאילו לצבוע, משהו זה להגיד, זה הייתה נקודה בזמן, שבו הוא עושה ככה. כאילו, לא יכול להיות שאני אצבע את הבן אדם כולו, על פי נקודה בזמן שבמקרה אני הייתי שם, וקרה לו משהו שם, קצת יותר קשה לי לעשות את זה על עצמי, בוא נגיד ככה, אבל אחרים,
זה נורא מעניין,
זה יותר קל לי לעשות, וכאילו משהו משתחרר, כי אז כל רגע זה כאילו רגע חדש.
לא כל הזמן חוזרת אחורה, ואומרת, ככה, אז ככה כאילו, זה מאפשר לי לתת לבן אדם יותר סיכוי, נגיד עכשיו מה שקורה, זה באמת אתגר מאוד מאוד גדול, אבל כאילו המשפטים כמו כל העזתים חמאסתים, אני אומרת, באותו יום, מתי כולם חמאסתים, כאילו, הם השתוללו וצהלו ושמחו, ואפילו אנשים פה בארץ שהתפלק להם, לכתוב כל מיני דברים ברשתות החברתיות. אני אומרת, באותה נקודה בזמן, באמת באיזה...
אבל את לא נאחזת בנקודה הזאת.
לא, תחת את הלב לחשוב שהיום יש הרבה אנשים כמה שחייבים שמשהו שם לא תקין.
שזה נורא יפה, אז אני רק אגיד לך משהו ואז I will translate in a second. הרבה מהתרגולים הבודהיסטיים אנחנו מזהים איזושהי יכולת שיש לנו בטריטוריה מסוים, ואז אנחנו מרחיבים אותה. למשל, אני נורא אוהבת או מעריכה את הנתינה של אמא שלי, יש שם אהבה, ננסה להרחיב לעוד אנשים שהם לא אמא שלי. אם את אומרת, קל לי להחזיק ריקות על אחרים, יותר קשה לי על עצמי, עכשיו זה הכיוון שאת צריכה לעבוד בו. כי כמו ההקלה שיש לך שם, שבי זה הקלה תהיה לך, הרי אנחנו הכי מייסרים את עצמנו. עכשיו כבר יש את היכולת, בעובדה שאת יודעת ליישם אותה על אחרים, אם אנחנו נצליח לקחת את זה על עצמנו, כמה סבל אנחנו יכולים, סבל לא הכרחי, אנחנו יכולים לצמצם. So Norit says that it's very easy for her, or what helps her is to think it was a point in time. When somebody did something, it was a point in time that I was there or the circumstances was this or that, and something happened at this point of time. It doesn't mean it's always like that and this is the person. Easier to see on others, sometimes harder to see on ourselves, but there's something that it's easy for her to hold it more open and more wide, that the person is more than what just happened in a certain point at time. Okay. Do you want to take a little break? Yes?
One little thing. When you said Angulimala, you said like Mala, okay? In Spanish, Mala is Ra. It's a Ra, okay? Ra.
מה? בספניש.
malo, כן?
נכון, malfunction.
זה רע, כן? כאילו שהוא, אפילו בשם שלו, יש לו
את הרוע.
המשכורת, כן, שהוא איש רע.
עבורך.
לחללים, לפחות, ככה זה...
For Spanish, mala is bad. So Angulimala, as if inherently his name indicates that he's bad, but you can see how language is empty, because mala for us is a beautiful thing. Yeah. Mala is just a necklace, right? Angulimala is a necklace of fingers, but mala is just a necklace, but that's it. And then we put on things, even words that change from language to language. For you, just his name indicates that he's...
I listened to Geshe-la now, yeah. He says, while you're a student, while you learn, don't play with the translation, because when you play with the translation, you get all sorts of different things. So keep this in your mind, because then he said there was the Buddha, he's the one that taught, and then they started to translate and to interpret what he studied. So then there are all those schools that happen, and it gets confused, and so for beginners,
but there's nothing but translation for us because we don't know Pali or Sanskrit or Tibetan.
So he said, stick with the English translation by the translators that you think are, or you learn from them. That's what he says. I don't know.
Okay.
I wanted to say that the king asked him, you are the son of this, and you are the son of this woman, and the son of this father. And he doesn't use his name. Like, yes, you're in Guatemala, but I think he reminds you that you were born someone, and you're like everybody else. You have a mother, you have a father, so you're not special, and you can be purified. Like you were born. We believe like the children are born pure, or so it's like a nice moment that he doesn't call him Angulimala, he calls you you're the son of this and you're the son of this and yet, and then it's clean, like it doesn't.
כן, גם לך לא מצאתי, אבל
I think maybe he's also checking him. Like he's the king, he's responsible for his people, and he should really make sure that this person
I know, but
not dangerous.
I know, but then the other me, you can see it in a different way also.
Yeah.
I just want to say another thing about infinite, because you were talking about it. Also, I think it is very helpful if you can remember not to put an exclamation mark at the end of the sentence, but to say, "Oh, now is it so?" And then you can see maybe a word for it.
it's very interesting to play with the idea of emptiness. And at the same time, to look at our own mind and see where can I play with this and where am I blocked. For example, it's easy to see on others, it's harder to see on myself. Or it's easy to see on some people and some people I cannot see. I'm holding so strong into that. So this teaches me about my mind, where I'm more deluded and where less.
Getting attached to
I'm getting attached to emptiness.
But I wanted to ask to raise two questions.
Yeah.
One is we have one question about the role of punishment. It leaves me with a question mark.
Mm-hmm.
And the second, what should I do if I'm find or tackle with Angelina on my way? How could I react to them? I'm not sure I'm clear enough. I mean, what's I met him?
Now, after transformation, when he's a monk,
Before the transformation.
run as fast as you can. No.
Many questions.
What do you have in mind? What would you like to do with him?
I can defend that. And I'm not saying that what is it his intention, and maybe what will happen if he change in the future.
Makes sense. Makes sense because so just to repeat for the recording.
So once again, we need a magic that we will change.
No.
So people
Not necessarily magic, but we need to develop our own skills of implementing people. That's definitely.
So if we are in a situation where we need
Personally, no, I don't. But this is something that I very much like.
But this is very nice because again, we don't have to grasp into ordinary appearances. Today, I cannot influence a murderer comes to me, but I can aspire to be able to do that in the future because the Buddha could. So if I'll cultivate my mind more, maybe in the future I will be able to address someone who is very violent and coming with bad intentions, and I will be able to influence. At the moment I cannot, but it's only a moment in time. Doesn't mean I will never. And the fact that at the moment I cannot and I need to defend myself, it's okay. We have precious human rebirth. We want to protect. So this is valid. About punishment, this is the second part of the sutra. We're going to get there. So I'm saying let's do 15-20 minutes of cakes for you and tea for me. And then we'll do the second part of the sutra and הנה. אוקיי.
אני רק רוצה להגיד שאנחנו נמצאים בתקופה של 10 ימי הניסים. שבדיוק מדברים על הניסים שהבודה עשה. אז הנה, נתאים גם...
נכון. It's this time of 10 days of miracles from Losar, the new year Tibetan calendar. And they talk about many miracles that the Buddha did. So this is another one. Okay, so we keep on reading. I want us just to finish. It's really the end. And then we can relate to the questions you said. What is purification? How about a punishment that other people see and get some satisfaction out of it? And אוקיי.
והרתעה.
והרתעה. איך אומרים הרתעה?
satisfaction.
כן, זה עובד מאוד,
כן.
כן. כן. נדון על זה פעם. איך אומרים הרתעה באנגלית? איך אומרים?
Deterrence.
Deterrence? If you want to give punishment to someone to make other people afraid, how do you call it in English? Frighten? There's a word in English that we... הרתעה. Israeli word. Okay. Okay. Let's read just the end. Let's read just the end, and then we can talk about purification, punishment, what people can see, etc. שהה אנגולימאלה לבדו, מסתפק במועט, מלא מרץ ורציני, ולא הרבה זמן אחר כך השיג את המטרה לשמה בנים למשפחות טובות עוזבים בצדק את ביתם לטובת חיים ללא בית. הבין והשיג אנגולימאלה הבנה עליונה של הסוף, של המטרה העליונה של החיים הרוחניים כאן ועכשיו. הבין הוא הבנה שלמה, הלידה מוצתה, החיים הרוחניים הושלמו, נעשה מה שהיה לעשות, לא נותרה עוד ביאה לעולם הזה. הוא הגיע לנירוונה, תכף נדבר על מה זה אומר בדיוק, ואכן אנגולימאלה המכובד נהיה לאחד הארהנטים, מה שאנחנו קוראים ארהט. אנגולימאלה reached nirvana. There are two types of obscurations in the mind, things that makes us deluded. The first one is called afflictive obscuration, is ignorance, the self-grasping, and all the afflictions that comes out of it, like attachment and anger and aversion and pride and jealousy and everything we know. And all of their seeds. Seed, zera, it means the next moment, the potential for the next moment. I have anger, I have seed of anger. This is the potential for the next moment. So if you purify this, he understands emptiness fully. He doesn't grasp into inherent existence of anything, not of himself, not of others, not of objects, of attachment, nothing. And he has no affliction, deluded states. He doesn't have this anymore. This is called nirvana. רגשות עוכרים, כל התעתועים, כעס, שנאה, היאחזות, קנאה, כל הדברים האלה, הוא עקר אותם והוא עקר גם את הזרעים שלהם. אין להם פוטנציאל בכלל לעלות לעוד רגע. זאת אומרת, לא יהיה עוד רגע כזה. He did quite an achievement. Okay? So he stopped. He put the stick down. He had put the stick down, and this is his own self-effort. It's not magic of others. It's not by the power of others. You can be inspired. You can get the tools or the method, but it is his own work. He is in nirvana. מוקדם בבוקר לבש אנגולימאלה את הגלימה, לקח את הגלימה השנייה, את קערת הנדבות, נכנס לשפתי כדי לאסוף מזון. או אז, נזרקו אבנים כשפגעו בגופו של אנגולימאלה המכובד, נזרקו מקלות כשפגעו בגופו של אנגולימאלה המכובד, נזרקו רגבים כשפגעו בגופו של אנגולימאלה המכובד.
פגעו בארהט.
כן, פגעו בארהט, עכשיו על הקרמה שלהם. פנה אנגולימאלה המכובד ללכת אל המבורך, כשראשו פצוע ומדמם. קערת המזון שלו שבורה והגלימה קרועה לחתיכות. ראה אותו המבורך מתקרב ממרחק ואמר, שא את הכאב ברהמין, שא את הכאב ברהמין. אתה חווה כאן ועכשיו את פירות הקרמה, שבעתיים היית מתבשל בגיהנום במשך הרבה שנים, במשך הרבה מאות שנים, במשך הרבה אלפי שנים. Let's wait with the poem because it's a summary of all the process. Let's talk about this. So here I think we can relate to karma, to consequences of what we did, and to purification. When we purify, what do we purify? We can purify actions of two types only. Actions of body, actions of speech. Which means something I acted in the world, I took something that is not mine. This I can purify. I also said you are not a nice person. Every action, because we have the motivation, underlying motivation, right? It leaves an imprint on our mind, on our continuum, רצף התודעה. Every action we did of body and speech leaves an imprint. We can purify them with 4 opponent patterns. We can do it with Vajrasattva practice, but we don't have to do Vajrasattva practice if you're not connected to this deity and mantra and visualization. Just by the 4 opponent powers, I will show you them because I think this is extremely important. Okay.
body speech and mind.
נכון, אבל...
אנחנו גם יכולים לחשוב דברים נהדרים.
נכון. לא על ידי ה-4 opponent powers. זה בגלל זה אני מפרידה.
לא על ידי?
לטהר תודעה זה לא על ידי 4 opponent powers.
אוקיי, ויש דרך?
ואת יודעת גם מה היא. למה...
שבועות לא.
We need to be very clear with how the mind works, because the mind is non-material, is not atomically established. So we think that everything there is very unreachable and maybe not very concrete, but it's very clear how to work with the mind, very clear. First, we need to realize that even if the action finished, the imprint on my mind is still impermanent, is still alive. So I have a tendency to steal. Let's say I stole something 5 years ago. Done, 5 years ago, leaves an imprint. But then I keep on stealing because I like to steal. So if I keep on stealing, this imprint grows. It's not like a seed of a plant that is very solid and it has a shape, and if I put many seeds together, they don't interact, right? If I take many seeds of tomato and I put them in a bag, each one sits in its place. In the mind, it's not like this. Imprints of the same type strengthen each other, and then all the mind takes a direction that now it becomes very easy to steal, and the imprint of stealing becomes very big. And at the same time, the imprint of respecting property of others becomes very small because they are counteracting, they are opposites. So even if the action finished, the imprint in my mind is something I can work on. If I do many actions of generosity, every possibility I have, I practice generosity, the imprint of generosity becomes very big. At the same time, the imprints of miserliness, of collecting things only for myself, become very small. The more I do love, the less I have anger. The more I do patience, the less I have impatience, right? So even if you say, okay, but I stole 5 years ago, what can I do today? I can do a lot because the imprint is still alive and מתהווה, rising in my mind each and every day. So I can purify even something that I think finished long time ago. I can still work on it. Okay, this is really, really important. This means that karma is not a fixed thing. Karma is, I say everything it's written in Hebrew, I'll say in English. Karma is dependent arising. It arises each and every moment. And we can work on it. Nothing is deterministic there. And we can work on things that finished long time in the past. This I said, how do I...
don't see it in the print.
אני לא יודעת למה. כי אצלי רואים...
Stop sharing.
ועכשיו אני הולכת ל...
sharing. צריך לתאר הראשון עצמו.
רגע, אבל עכשיו לא הפסקתי את המצגת.
לא, אל תפסיקי, תפסיקי share screen.
share screen ו...
enter, תפסיקי השמאלי ביותר. מסך השמאלי.
זה מה שאת רוצה?
גאון, גאון, בוודאי. הוא יודע לפניי מה אני רוצה. How can I purify? Lama Zopa used to say, each time you do something against your automatic reaction responses, this is already purification. I have a tendency to eat sweets. Each time I say to myself, no, I choose to refrain. Actively choose to refrain. The fact that I'm sitting here and there's no cake in front of me, that this is not active refraining. This is not purification. This is not accumulation of merit. I just sit here. להימנע ממשהו, החלטה אקטיבית, להימנע מלעשות אקט שלילי, או אקט שאני רוצה לטהר. So that's why they say, if I want this, you know, you have the vows not to kill, not to steal, not to lie. If I just sit here, and there's no challenge not to kill, there are no ants here, there is no snails, this is not accumulation of merit. If I see something that I have an opportunity to kill, and then I say, no, I save lives, this is purification. This is accumulation of merit. Then I purify automatic responses. Okay?
What is purification?
אם אני נמנעת באופן אקטיבי, כשיש לי הזדמנות ליפול להרגלים שלי. יש לי פה עכשיו ג'וק הולך, ואני בוחרת לא להרוג אותו. אבל אם אין ג'וק, אין לי אתגר פה, אין לי שום הימנעות פסיבית או אקטיבית.
כאילו מאבדים את
הזרע, נכון.
זה כאילו מקטין.
בדיוק. Each time I choose not to do something, I put the habit lower and lower and weaker and weaker, and then the imprints goes smaller and smaller and smaller.
You're doing, like, if you do it automatically, and then you
regret it. So this is what we do. The four opponent powers are the tools for us to purify. The first one is regret. In regret, we need to realize that there are some negative aspects in what we did, either harming myself or harming others. Because sometimes we do something out of ignorance, out of habits, and we are not fully aware that it was not wrong. It was not right to do that. Like I hurt someone. And then I think of it and I say, yeah, I hurted him, I hurted my karma, myself. I don't want that anymore. I don't want this type of behavior anymore. Regret is a bit painful because it needs to kick a process of purification. It's a bit painful. I really feel sorry for what I did. But we don't get stuck in self-blame, in ashma, because then it's unproductive. We cannot work with it, right? So first we realize we did something wrong. We used to laugh with our teachers in Nalanda, in the monastery. We used to say, okay, we do what we want, and then we purify. So I take the mala of someone, they don't say, oh, I'm so sorry. And then my teacher used to say, if you break your legs, and then you put a cast, and you heal, you can still walk, but it's never the same. So you can purify, but it's never the same as if you never did it. Or if you break a beautiful vase, you can put it with glue, you can put it together, it's never the same. So they recommend us to try and refrain, but if not, then purify. So we start with regret. The second one is resolution, is a very strong decision. I will not do that again. Okay? I understand why it's harmful for me or for others or for both. I understand, I fully understand, then I take a strong decision, I will not do that again. They say try to be practical with this one. For example, the examples that the teachers give, the Tibetan teachers, they say, yeah, nobody listens to me. You listen. Partial distraction, partial. We are still with you and we have other things at the same time. The sweetness in life. We need to remember that as well. And we end with so much potential.
So listen, resolution, very strong resolution.
Very strong resolution. They give as an example, the big teachers, they say, for example, you have the habit to gossip. You like to gossip all the time. Each time you have a meeting, לרחל. This is your way to make a connection, so you gossip. It's very hard if you take now a resolution saying, I will never gossip in my life.
Right.
Probably you will not be able to do that because it's a strong habit. So if you say from now on, never again, very hard. So they say, build up slowly. They say, if you go to sleep and you know you're going to sleep for 8 hours and these 8 hours you don't talk to anyone, you say before going to sleep, I will not gossip now until the morning. And then you wake up in the morning and say, oh, I could.
Ruvina used to say, because she had a habit to get angry. She said, oh, I purify every evening and I'm going to sleep. And then again in the morning, she will get angry again. And...
Yeah, we need to build. It's like when you train somebody for, I used to be an organizational consultant and to work with organizations, how you promote your sales, right? You build the target gradually. You don't immediately, not today. Yeah.
I wanted to maybe share a little personal, if maybe it will be helpful, if you not just have the resolution, but you have the resolution to, for example, not to do this specifically in this situation, and you analyze what in this specific situation caused me to act this. And what I do is resolution is that in those specific circumstances, I will act differently. And this is a form of art also. So what should I do with my affliction, right, in those moments, so that I would not do that?
Yeah.
So be specific with resolution.
אוקיי. אלכס אומר שבשביל ההחלטה, כשאנחנו לוקחים החלטה, זה לא רק החלטה כללית, אלא אנחנו נעשים מאוד מאוד ספציפיים בהקשר לסיטואציה. מה גרם לי להתנהג בצורה מסוימת בסיטואציה מסוימת? ואני בודקת את הרגשות האחרים שלי, ואני מנתחת מה קרה, ואז אני יכולה לקחת החלטה מאוד מאוד חזקה, לא לחזור על זה בסיטואציה הזאת, כי אני כבר יותר מבינה את המניעים שלי, אני יותר מבינה מה עובר עליי שם, ואז resolution יכולה להיות פר סיטואציה, ואז יותר קל לנו אולי להפנים. So it's really like resolution needs to be practical. I will not transform in one day.
Practical and something that you can succeed.
And I can achieve. I can again and again. Yeah, if I put a goal that is too high and I keep on failing, then I say, oh, I cannot transform. Which I can transform, just I need to do it wisely. I think Geshe Dorje Damdul, he has an example of people that put bracelets on their teeth about, and he says, why? And you know, it's a long process. We have an expert. Yeah. It's a long process, right? And each time the child comes, then you fix it a bit, מותח קצת, נכון? And Geshe Dorje Damdul says, why don't you do it in 2 days? You immediately make it the strongest, and in 2 days. Said no, because changes do not work like that.
It's painful.
It's painful, but in the mental is the same. We say consciousness is mental. It's very different from the physical world. It's not, it's the same. I cannot change the teeth of someone in 2 days, even though I have the mechanism. Because you need gradual change that physical and mental can support. The same with the change of consciousness. When you take a resolution, you take a practical resolution. And you do it gradual, and you can go to yourself as an inner teacher or to your outside teacher, and you share the path, like you go to Susie to fix your teeth. Do a gradual process together. So this is the resolution. The third one is remedy. There are 4 R's in English. Remedy is I need to do something, an action, to counteract the negative action. Action can be something very wide. In the traditional text is visualization, practice, mantras, circumambulations around stupas, all the practices. But it can be also action in the world. I can go to someone that I hurt and say, sorry. This is a remedy. I can volunteer in a hospital and make children happy. It's a remedy. My teacher used to say, and this is beautiful, every action that you decide in advance that this is the remedy to purify something you did will serve as a remedy to purify, but you need this intention. Like I said, I used to steal. Now I want to, I don't know, to go to a house and I give food to some of the people, I give some service, but I do, before I go, I said, I want to do it as a purification of what I did in the past. So you put the motivation and the intention before you do it, that this will act as a remedy. And the last one we call reliance. We want the right motivation for the whole process. It means refuge and bodhicitta. You remember that I choose to follow the path because I trust Buddha that shows me that I create suffering that I don't have to experience. Some sufferings are not in my control, but there's so much suffering that I create for myself that it is so stupid and I can transform and have such a relief in my life. So much better life. I trust the Buddha, I trust the path. And I do it with an altruistic motivation. I want to do it for the benefit of others. And this is the framework for all my process of spirituality, of my self-transformation. I don't do it so I will have better life. It's like the hand will not cut the feet. We are dependent arising, all of us. So if I want to benefit, I take care of you, I will benefit. So it's like we remember 4 R's: regret, resolution, remedy, reliance. This you can do on every action of body and speech. Mental actions, the mental actions can be purified only with realization of emptiness.
Realization of
Emptiness. But every step we do, the door is there, but everything I do keeps me closer to the door. So even if I didn't open it yet, everything you do, nothing, this is one of the laws of karma, nothing disappears by itself. Everything you learned, practiced, reflected, thought about, tried, everything stays. And everything you do on the Dharma, it's like the seeds that grow and grow and grow in your mind and gives you the right directions. All the Buddhist path is cause and effect. I create the causes for the results I want. I want to realize emptiness. I learn and I practice and I study and I reflect and I discuss and I think and I do and I analyze and I try, even on silly things, if I can quit sugar or not. But everything like this build the result that I want to reach the door. It will happen. It will happen. Sorry?
Do I have seeds of bad karma? Because I thought...
תני לי בעברית.
יש לי זרעים של קרמה שלילית, בגלל שחשבתי מחשבות לא טובות.
בוודאי. Can we have...
באותה עוצמה של התנהגות.
לא. We can accumulate... נכון. Do we accumulate karma on thoughts that I didn't act upon? Let's say I think of someone, oh, I hate him, 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 I want to kill him, I want to kill him, I wish to disappear. But I never acted outside. I never acted, but I thought about it intensively. It leaves an imprint. Not as strong as acting, but think, it's like a muscle. You cannot put an imprint spending so many hours thinking something and to think it will not shape your view. If I'm putting effort, time and energy and a lot of emotions in something I want to kill, you think there will be nothing left? Even if I didn't take the knife, nothing will be left. My mind will be pure because I didn't. You invest so much. I have a friend that hates Bibi so much. It's just on the TV, she's on the verge of a heart attack. She cannot stand him. And she's fueling it. She's putting a lot of energy there. And I'm telling her the mind is a creature of habit. If you habituate yourself to anger, it will not be only on Bibi. This will be your default very quickly for your children, for your husband, for your work. You habituate yourself for something. So if you put something in your mind, it was, even if she didn't do anything physical with him. But it's harder to transform the mind. It's easier to control body and speech. That's why even in the context of how you transform, they always say start with the ethical vows. Ethical vows is body and speech. Don't lie, don't shout, don't steal, right? It's harder for me, or it's easier for me not to take this. It's harder for me to think, oh, I would like to take it. This thought can come, oh, I wish it was mine. But I can still refrain and not take it. This is easier to control than the thoughts. So this is why they say first start with ethical behavior, body and speech. בדיוק. The mind, sometimes through the body, the understanding comes easier, and on the mind to work is more subtle, it's longer.
זה מיינדפולנס הרבה פעמים.
נכון.
ככוח.
נכון.
לעצור את השטף של המחשבה. עשתה לי מחשבה ראשונית. אין לי שליטה על זה, אבל בדיוק. המשך הסיפור, אני מתבאה לחזור אותו.
בדיוק. נכון. Mindfulness is the tool. I can detect a thought coming. I didn't have the control for it to come. But now that I'm aware and I'm mindful, then I don't have to follow you. I don't have to believe you. I don't have to fuel you. I don't have to make you bigger. I do. This is the habits. But I don't have to follow. I have these things so many times. I'm surprised how easily anger comes in my mind on stupid things. And I'm saying to myself, really? Again? But with mindfulness, and because I am a bit more familiar with detecting it, I don't have to follow. But I see the tendency, but I will not shout or not slap or.
I want to ask about if you use the 4 opponent powers, if you make a resolution, but then you fail, or either you forget that you made the resolution, so it's still a karmic seed.
Yeah, you can keep on working on it until it works. It's determination, huh?
So it still has karma, but it's less potent than
the one that you tried to damage and you couldn't? The one that you tried to purify? Or the new one that you failed?
the new one.
Yeah, it's a process. We are in the process.
And still had effect.
You still have intention.
Yes. That's why you're still walking on the right direction.
אפשר לקמץ, אם זה יותר גרוע מזה, וזה יותר...
לא,
כן.
יש לזה גם משפחה.
דבר כזה, כן?
נכון, אנחנו מנסים להבין.
כמו תעלי למוזגיים.
אמרנו, if you had an act that would strengthen karma.
Yeah.
Like the steps that you take every day.
But this is how you think. Try to think of your life like that. Every action you do, is it meritorious or not? Do I add to my account or not?
יש לנו איזה יכולת מתמטיקה בראש כל הזמן
לחשב.
לעשות לעצמנו דברים טובים.
לפעמים יותר, לפעמים. And when we talk about purification, yes?
More what you said, that mental actions cannot be purified with 4 hours, because it seems like 4 hours are directed at the mind, they are directed at afflictions, and what they do, they do not do nothing with mind and speech, with speech and body action, they only work with mind. And how is that they are not?
Yeah, it's a bit tricky.
You can't regret that
That
the thought came up.
Actually, the ethical practice is that you generate regret with 2 or 3 actions of the mind, which is ignorance, which is wishing negative things to people, I'm not sure what to say in English, and attachment. Right?
Yeah, the 3 poisons. The 4 opponent powers, the afflictions many times motivate us, right? But to be able to purify, we need direct antidotes. This is how the mind works. The mind works in such a way that if I have black, I need white. If I have darkness, I need light. If I have miserliness, I need generosity. If I have love, I need hatred or something, right? I need direct opposites to purify. The direct opposite of ignorance, that is the root of all the afflictions, is the wisdom realizing emptiness. Nothing else is the direct opposite. So if I need a direct opposite to uproot the seeds, this is the only way of full purification. I can reduce manifestation. This is true. If I learn to cultivate more love, I will have less moments of anger because I'm habituating myself to love. But I didn't fully purify the seeds of anger because I still have ignorance, and this is the root of everything. As long as I have ignorance, I cannot purify the afflictions. I can reduce them. And this, I think you can understand, you can see on yourselves. Once you started to practice, you see I have less afflictions. They come less often. Maybe they are not as strong. Maybe they pass away quicker. You used to be angry at 10, now I'm angry at 4. It used to last 3 days, now it lasts half a day. It comes 2 months, twice every month and not every day. I can see that I'm reducing, but it's not a full purification. While in action, if you do the opposite, if I practice generosity, I can counter out stealing, for example. So this is the root. Is it dark for you here? It became a bit dark. I think it's cloudy outside or something. It became a bit...
Can you get a realization of emptiness when you still have seeds of all those afflictions in your mind?
This is how it works. This is how it works. You don't purify and then realize emptiness. You realize emptiness while you have them in your mind, and then you start gradual process of purification. This is how it works. Okay. And when you say when I say purification, when we say purification, what does it mean? Purification means I damage the potential for the ripening.
ממש מצחיקה אותה. או שהיא חופה בעצם.
Yeah, she had nothing to purify. She's really happy. When you don't have something to purify, you're happy. This is how it works, huh? She's just happy. What does it mean, purification? Seed, zera, is a potential. So I want to damage the potential. How can I damage the potential? There are a few levels. One is just postpone the ripening. אני דוחה את ההבשלה. Why postponing is helping me in purification? Because if it will ripen not now, and not in next life, but let's say in 500 lives from now, I have time to transform. And then you remember the equation of what happens in my mind. The mind can be very different, and then maybe it will never ripen. So postponing gives me more time to purify, to transform, to change my mind. This is one way of purification, damaging the potential. Second way is ripening as something smaller. And this is what we had in the sutra. When people were harming Angulimala, throwing stones and sticks and dirt, Buddha told him, bear with this, because this is the ripening you have now instead of eons in hell. Because he took so many lives, it was supposed to ripen as the worst ripening as hell. But before, because he purified, because he transformed, then there is a ripening that is much smaller. And Buddha told him, bear with this, because these are the consequences. תסבול את זה, תישא את הסבל, זאת ההשלכה או ההבשלה של מעשיך. קולקטיבית, נכון?
זה הבשלה של משהו שאנחנו...
ככה אומרים.
שותפים לו.
כן.
כן, אבל זה מקסים, זה מקסים.
כן.
וכאילו, אם זה בחיים האלה, זה עוד יותר קטן כאילו, צריכה להיות איזושהי הבשלה.
Not every ripening is a small one. I think what we have now is not a small one. It doesn't have to be an act of purification. It can be just a ripening of negative actions in the past that are a collective. It's a collective karma. Mm-hmm. Purification means there will be ripening that is not so heavy. In Nalanda, each time somebody has a headache, everybody comes purification. Because many times they say, if you transform, if you make effort, remember that transform doesn't mean you're a Buddha immediately. But you have good intention and you work on yourself and you cultivate the causes. Then negativities can ripen in small things, like a headache, like losing your property and you get some mental stress out of it, like small things.
So you dedicated, you then made this ripening?
There's nothing to dedicate. It's a ripening of a negative karma. That's not something it's not a cause of happiness that I can offer you. once a karma ripens, done. First, I cannot purify. Let's say it ripened as a heavy sickness, that a chronic sickness that goes with me now for 10 years. Ripened. I cannot purify now. If something ripened, it ripened. But as long as it's not ripening, is it in the form of a seed, of a potential, I can work on it. And then something, I can damage the ripening to have something small. Or to be postponed, or maybe even totally not manifesting, but this is a very strong purification. We need to be with very strong concentration to be able to do that. Right? Concentration gives strength to everything we do.
I have a question. You talked about if I'm not purifying something now, I will have life, future life to do it. So if I'm thinking about my life now, I can assume that I have things to purify from past life, okay? But I cannot do, not regret, not resolution, and not remedy because I don't know.
You don't remember that.
I don't run what action was it.
Yeah.
So how can I purify?
How can I purify? So the question is, how can we purify actions from previous lives because we don't remember them? So it's a question. It's a question. What we usually do is we take an action we remember in this life. Let's say I have a tendency for harsh speech. So it doesn't come out of nowhere, right? Probably I had previous lives of that. So let's say everything that I remember in this life, because I think there are many negativities in this life that we don't remember each and every action we did. So I'm not aware of things even in this life, not just previous life. But I'm saying to myself, I would like to change my speech, to transform to a beneficial one, a virtuous one. So I'm thinking of some examples, only few examples that I remember that it was very manifesting. And I'm saying to myself, I can infer, that I had many other occasions that I don't remember in this life and previous lives. And I want to transform my speech. So I'm just taking something, or in this life I killed cockroaches. I can guess that I did worse things than that in killing and taking lives in many lifetimes before. And I go through something I know, for me it's a get, and then I expand. In the past, I used to do only on one action that I remember. But I think after a while, I could open my mind more and to say, I take a tendency, I take few examples, and I expand more. So I think we practice gradually. We start with one thing, we see how we feel. And then at one point we say, okay, let's take a pattern. And maybe the pattern comes from previous life, so let's go. We play like this.
Maybe also we can, if we have compassion and we can feel someone's pain, we can also feel someone's regret. We can say that. And we can feel regret maybe not for only our actions, but also feel regret for actions for the things happening in the world. And maybe this is also working this in direction.
I think it's a method for strengthening your compassion and your love. It's not purifying my actions, but it's improving the quality of your virtuous qualities.
אם קורה לי משהו, נגיד, ואני אומרת, אוקיי, זה קרמה שהתחילה, ויש איזו תוצאה של משהו שהיה בעבר. אני מגלם אירוע שמתחיל ונגמר, ואני אומרת, אוקיי, זה הכשלה של קרמה, אני לא יכולה להגיד מה, ואיזה דרך יותר קלה להתמודד עם דברים קשים, ולהגיד, אוקיי, זה הכשלה של קרמה. אבל אם, כמו שאת אומרת, נגיד, זה משהו שהוא הוא ארוך, אוקיי? יש לנו שזה קרמה שהתחילה שליטה לעצור את זה, להפסיק את זה, לעשות תרופות כנגד.
כן, כן. So if it's an ongoing ripening, like a long-term sickness, but it's ripening already, so what can I do now?
נגיד סרטן.
So there is the karma to be sick, but there's also the karma to be healed. So maybe I can work on my karma to heal. That's why all these pujas of medicine Buddha that people dedicate. They say that all the monks are praying for someone as if it's a cooperative condition to help the ripening of a healing to come. So if something ripened, think that in every action we do, there are so many aspects. Many times we say it's a mixed karma in one action. You have good motivation, and somebody donates lots of money because it's very wealthy. It's a very beautiful karma, virtuous, but he wants his name on the building, so it's a bit of pride, and so mixed karma. So in everything we do, there's such a mixture. And if we have attachment to ourselves, then really there's a mixture even in very good actions. Then the ripening can also be very mixed. So you have the ripening of being sick, but maybe there are other karmas of being healed or suffer less while you sick, or control your mind better so you can hold your sickness in more ease and you don't make more drama and suffer double, like the second mental arrow that we shoot on ourselves. So even if something ripened there, there's still a lot to do. Yeah. Yeah, I had some more ideas, but maybe we can keep it for next time. So it's a big sutra. Anything else you would like to say?
No, that what I saw for me, that it could be much worse.
Yes.
No, the karma,
Yeah.
the punishment. No, it's
Not punishment.
No, not punishment, okay, but it's like yeah, how the karma works.
Yes, yes, yes. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's like when people say, "Oh, I don't want to stop smoking or stop eating sugar," because look at this person, 100 years, and he's still smoking, like, you know, and he's
Yeah.
healthy.
Yeah.
He's healthy. And it's like, okay, you don't know what karma is there and what
That's true.
is inside.
Yeah, yeah, it's totally like that. Venerable Rubina, when she talks about karma, she gives an example of Warren Buffett. Do you know Warren Buffett? He's 93 years old.
That's junk.
He eats junk. And she said, this is the point she's talking about. She said, I read his biography. He eats every day a cheeseburger and Coke and vanilla ice cream. Every day. Every day. And he's proud of it because I think for him it shows that he's simple and is doing simple food, even though he's so wealthy. But we think health-wise, somebody else will die from such a diet in the age of 50, but he's living until 93. And Rubina says it's like the fuel in his tank of karma, of long life, is still there. And this is thanks to saving lives, or protecting lives, or respecting lives in many lifetimes. So because all the talk about karma is that if you protect lives, then you have long lifespan. But we need to be very precise. Not everything is karma. This also we need to know. There are sutras and teachings that sometimes it's imbalance of the element of the body that creates a sickness, not necessarily karma. Sometimes I put so much anger in my mind that I feel very unpleasant. It's not a ripening of karma, it's because I'm angry. So not everything is karma. Okay? So I think we can dedicate now. And we take the coming 2 weeks to reflect on Angulimala and transformation and noble birth of ours and others, and emptiness and purification. And the next week we'll do a bit more of this, and then we continue. Okay, so let's dedicate.
יש לי time.
כן, כן. בדיוק גם אני אמרתי לעצמי. So let's think of all of our positive potential, our merit, positive karma that we created by coming here, wanting to learn, to reflect, to transform our minds. Every single bit of effort that we put is a cause for happiness, is a cause for transformation, is a cause for our next bodhicitta, future bodhicitta. and enlightenment. So we can rejoice in accumulating the causes. We can rejoice that we open the door to the Dharma and we work on ourselves. We can rejoice in every achievement we have. In the four immeasurables, we say, may every sentient being be happy. So we give away our merit because merit is a cause for happiness, and we offer our merit to each and every sentient being who needs it. And we offer it to Tal, that she's improving and she's feeling much better, but still we would like her to have a full, complete, fast, easy recovery with a healthy and happy and balanced mind to deal with all this process. And to each and every other sentient being who suffer from injury, from sickness, from illness, from pain, from loss of family or members, from loss of their houses, from horror and terror and everything we experience in these days, may we offer all of our merit to everyone as a cause of happiness. Can come back slowly, slowly. Thank you very much. Thank you. Ciao, ciao.
Yeah, she wants to fly.